If you were to also use a group lockout tagout scenario, here you may enter more than one name. So you would just put a comma and then another name. Just know once you put more than one name in this box, it will no longer be searchable by the names. You'll have to use the lock number. So for this instance, we'll leave it at the group principal. So for the shop name, you'll notice there were different. So for the shop name, you may choose more than one shop. So if the task calls for multiple shops working on a group principal lockout, you can select as many as needed. The lock numbers is a field that is mandatory to continue the lockout. So if you have multiple lockouts in a group, only one number is necessary to put into this block. And then the tags may be blank in this case. So the tag position, again, like the shop name and lock numbers, is a mandatory field, but because you might have multiple points that could be shut off or opened or on or off, only one position is necessary so you can complete the documentation. So this would be a case where other is okay to use. And then when you explain, you can put multiple positions. The date tagged should be the first date that this particular lockout is occurring. So if you have a task or a job that requires multiple lockouts, but over time for a project, then the first date is what should be used for date tagged. So if there were lockouts added after 4/28, then you would not need to update this because the group principal or the group lockout is still ongoing. The work order, CP, or service request may also be left blank, or just the first work order involved with the lockout can be entered. Building name is another field that can have multiple selections. The project description is probably something that is useful to utilize when engaged in a group or group principal lockout, just to explain what's happening throughout the process. And so just like the individual, the rest of the form is left blank for when it's time to bring the positions back into operation. When you have a group or a group principal, the attachment section is valuable. For instance, many of these positions might be best to document on a form, a written form. So if you were to use a written form or just some paper documentation of the locks and the lockouts and the tags or other involved project descriptors for the lockout, you could take a picture of that form or forms with your phone or iPad and then insert them into the documentation here on your lockout tagout app. When you're finished, you just select Submit and Update to complete.